Hey everybody, this is Steve with Brutal Resonance. We're gonna start up. I am getting really close to the mic because I'm not used to doing this shit. But I am here with the ever wonderful Sam Franco of BARA HARI. How we doing, Sam?
Doing great today. How are you?
Not bad. I took my dog for a walk at one over at my dad's house for Father's Day, and bathed in some sun. And now I'm probably gonna be burned tomorrow.
Nice.
So. Before we begin, I just want to say this to all our Brutal Resonance listeners and anybody else who might stumble upon this podcast. Technically, I'm going to be interviewing a lot of artists, a lot of musicians on this, like Sam herself. But I'm not really aiming to discuss music solely on here. I just kind of want to be this guy who just bullshits around and just talks about random shit. Because I've done that in the past where I just solely talked about the music and it gets boring. And I can tell it also bores the artists sometimes because they're sick of talking about it and producing it. And when they're finished with an album, the last thing they want to probably do is sit there and talk about it even more after they went through all that stress. I think I speak for you when I say that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of, how stressful was the making of Lesser Gods? I know I said we're not going to talk too much about it, but how was it for you?
The making of it wasn't that stressful at all because I'm on a small label, so there wasn't any like time constraint or anything. I put out an EP in 2021, and then I pretty much started writing immediately after that. So I had accumulated all the songs within probably like 8 to 9 months. I wrote the majority of the songs, and I worked closely with my partner Ian Flux from Fact Pattern. So he helped me like take them to the next level. He had a guitar. Then I have a drummer that lives in Washington that helped. Like everything just kind of came together really stress-free, like absolutely stress-free. The stressful part was the after like the visuals and like the production of the physical goods and all of that. So there were a lot of delays and stuff, but it still wasn't as stressful as I imagine it could be. A lot of people were warning me that getting vinyl press was going to take like fucking a year and a half to get like my records back. I got my records in like 3 weeks. So it was insane. Like that was smooth sailing. Wes from Remission was really helpful. I am a graphic designer, a video editor. I do everything. So that was the stressful part. Like it was just a fuck ton of work for me to do on my own. But I always remind myself, like, no one's making me do this. I am the one that's choosing to do it. So if I'm stressed out, it's because it's my own fault. Like it's my project. Like at the end of the day, I have to remember that. So, it went up and down. It was just like, God, I need to get this done like by a certain date and whatever. But I actually, for the first time in my life, did not procrastinate, and I started working on everything way in advance. So like the first music video was made practically a year before it came out. And then I just like stacked up the music videos before we even announced that there was going to be a record. So I was good on that.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to do it. I think that's important for like independent labels because I run one too with Brutal Resonance Records, but I think it's important for an independent label to realize that a lot of the people that you're signing on, they have day jobs. They work 9 to 5s. Like I work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. And sometimes I'll go in on the weekends for overtime. So when I work with an artist, I'm always like, hey, just to let you know, we're stress free. If you don't get something done on time, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
So. Now you do everything yourself, from costuming to the graphic design to making the music, yada yada, so on and so forth. Where'd you get started from making your own costumes? Because that's actually the most amazing part about your work, in my opinion. Like whenever I see you on like Facebook or Instagram, you're like, "Hey, I got a new costume." I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome." So,
it's very casual.
yeah.
I got started. Well, my mom used to make me clothes growing up, and she like started making my Halloween costumes, and I was really into Halloween ever since I was a little kid. And so I always kind of had like big expectations when it came around to like Halloween time. And then when I started doing my own stuff, it was very just like DIY alterations on clothing. Like maybe I wanted to, change the length of a skirt or like whatever. But what really got me interested in making my own costumes is long time ago, I used to belly dance. And when I started doing performances, I didn't have money for the very expensive, elaborate costumes. So I started learning how to make them myself. So it stemmed from that. And then I just challenged myself to actually sew an entire garment. Like I started making dresses and skirts and things that were a little bit simpler to make. And then one day I was just like, fuck it, why don't I just make a full-on Victorian dress? And so it just kind of started from there, where like I got really interested in just costuming and like the ability to morph something that's so like flat and lifeless into something that like fits and looks a certain way. So it's just kind of like almost magical, in my opinion, to be able to transform something like that into something that like makes you feel like a character.
Absolutely. Now, so from what I'm hearing, a lot of this was just self-taught. Like you got some skills from your mother, and then you just kind of went out on your own.
Yeah, I just like started buying patterns and kind of loosely paying attention to the instructions, and a lot of trial by error. Like I just fucked up a lot until finally I was like, okay, maybe I should actually like watch tutorials and learn how to do things the right way so that things don't look like shit.
Absolutely. Now, did you ever go to school for that, or was it again just like self-taught, looking up tutorials and stuff like that? Because honestly, that's amazing.
No, it's all self-taught. Like I have never taken a sewing class.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite costume that you've done then?
I think I really like the red dress from my Violence Rising video. And I also just like I'm a freak for the Ren Faire. Like Ren Faire season rolls around and I'm just like, let me make one costume. And that always turns into like, let me make 3 of them and make one for Ian too. Maybe I'll make you. So I don't know. It's just like my time. Like I feel like that's like an athlete has the Olympics and I have the Renaissance Fair. So I'm just like, this is my time to shine. So the one of the ones I made this year, it's probably, I don't know, it's really simple. It's like one of my favorite things I've made because it just fits really well and it's comfortable and I don't know, that's my element, I guess.
Yeah, no, me and my wife, we go to the Renaissance Fair every year. We're in Pennsylvania, so we head down to Mount Hope. And we go down there, and I actually buy a weapon every single year that I go. And actually, so give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay, I'm back, and I clicked on the screen. But I got this last year. It's a giant fucking hammer. It weighs like 40 pounds, but there's this one dude who's there every year, and his name is I think it's Cain's and Abel, like Cain and Abel. Mm-hmm. But he makes like wooden canes and whatnot. And every year I go there trying to find like a bigger, badder club, because every single year I go there and find a bigger, badder club. Yeah. And this year I found that, or last year I found that giant hammer, and I was like, I'm getting it. I always bring. Yeah, I always bring like $300-400 with me, and then I just
it goes so quick.
Yeah,
you're like, I need this. I will use it.
I honestly want to say that like $150 to $200 every year at the Ren Faire is just spent on food, because I just pig out the whole entire day. Like I'm not a big
like expensive, out here. Like we go to the one in Southern California. It's like the LA one, but it's not really Los Angeles. And it's like if you want to get a tall boy like a beer, it's $18. So you're just like $100 goes really fast.
Well, yeah, because like I'm not a huge booze person. Like I'll sip on like what my wife gets, what my buddies get, but I don't go out of the way to buy that. I just go around and buy like food all day. I pick out turkey legs. Yeah, I get like around, because we usually get there around 11. So as soon as like 12 o'clock hits, I'm like, no, food time.
Yeah.
Because, I want that protein in me for the energy for the day. But I
appreciate the Ren Faire, and I bet it's like way more immersive over there because you have like forest. We just have I don't know, I really love the Ren Faire anywhere, but over here just like really flat and dry and hot. It's fucking always hot for some reason. Like the weekend rolls around and it's just Hades, and then during the week it goes back to being overcast, and it's like, oh, the Ren Faire opens up on the weekend, let's make it extremely hot. I don't know. It's just weird. Like they want you to, like the heavens just want you to have that fully immersive Renaissance, sweaty, stinky, everything sticking to you experience.
Yeah, I started making my outfit like 1 or 2 years ago. Well, not making like you do. I can't do that. I'm sorry. But I piecemeal it. So every year I go to the Ren Faire and I'll buy like a new piece of equipment. Like 2 years ago, I got my first kilt, and I got a nice one. And I forget what the phrase was that they used, but they wanted me to take off my underwear and wear the kilt. And I was just like, I'm good with that because I'm a big dude. And if I bend over, everything's showing. So
All angles.
exactly. Two of my buddies went without panties for the rest of the day, but I wasn't brave enough. So, but I got that, and then last year I got a really nice leather belt, and then this year I want to get like one of those shoulder pads, like a really the leather.
Epaulette.
Yeah. The one with like the spikes and everything, and leather straps. So, I'm excited. But you know, Ren Faire all day.
Yeah, I made one of those actually a while ago, but it was like because there's an event out here called Wasteland Weekend. I don't know if
I've heard of that. Yeah.
And it's like very post-apocalyptic themed.
Mad Maxy.
Yeah, and I was performing one year as a dancer, and I had to like I didn't get the memo in enough time that you have to go like prepared to be in character the whole time. So even
really?
down to like the shit you sleep in has to be like, I mean, I'm sure they're probably a little bit more lax about it now, but when I went, they were like, even your pajamas have to be Mad Max. And I was just like, fuck. So I just like went to the thrift store and just like threw like dirt and mud and like spray paint and ripped shit. And like I made one of those epaulettes out of like I think it was like a knee pad, and then I just like put spikes in it and studs and like whatever. It was pretty cool. That event is not for the faint of heart though.
Yeah, I've always wanted to head down there, but if you have to be in character the whole time, I wouldn't survive because I don't like to do that type of stuff, you know?
It depends on where you camp because there's different campgrounds.
Gotcha.
Or even if you can stay at a hotel if you don't want to fully immerse yourself. But there aren't that many hotels around, let me tell you. It's in the middle of the desert.
Gotcha.
But there are different campgrounds, and like if you're staying within the city walls, you have to be in character all the time. But if you camp outside, you can fucking wear whatever. You know, Walmart sweatpants, no one cares.
Exactly. Yeah. No, because I was gonna say if you're like trying to do pajamas Mad Max style and you just wear the same outfit 24/7, I assume. And that's a little nasty.
You just accept that you're dirty though. You just accept you're like, I'm not gonna sleep. It's gonna be hot. There's gonna be dirt. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when we started going to the Renaissance Fair, we used to just go, you know, and it's like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive depending on traffic for us to get down there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we live in the middle of nowhere, so small Pennsylvania town. But it takes us like that long to get down there. We used to get there around 11, and then we'd leave around 5 or 6. And then we stop at our stopping zone now is Ruby Tuesday. Ruby Tuesday, if you want to sponsor this video, go for it. But we'd stop there, we'd eat our dinner, and then we'd go home. But what we started realizing in the past like couple of years is that like it's just horrible doing all that, you know, because it's like 8 hours nonstop, and like by the time we're done getting soaked in the sun, sweating all day, we don't want to go home directly. So we started getting a hotel room and just showering and whatnot. Nice. So we found one that's like 10 minutes away from the location this time, so I'm happy. But anyway, we were talking about costuming, if I remember correctly, and then we went on that little train. My next question for you then is, what is your favorite costume of all time from a movie or a television show?
Oh man, that is a hard one.
Yeah.
I really love. It's really dorky, but like one of my favorite movies for some fucking reason of all time is Labyrinth.
Okay.
With David
I've never
Bowie.
actually seen that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it has Jennifer Connelly in it when she was like 15.
Aren't there like a lot of puppets in it too? Like,
it was like a Jim Henson production, and the production designer is an artist named Brian Froud, who has passed away as far as I know. So it's just like very darkly whimsical. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just dark and weird. I don't know. And then David Bowie's in it. He plays like a Goblin King with a gigantic bulge. It's really weird. I don't know how that movie ever got me. It was the audience. I'm like, this is not for kids. This is for adults. But there's like this ballroom scene towards the end of the movie, and Jennifer Connelly's wearing this like the poofiest dress I've ever seen in my life. It's all white, and she has like this cool like metallic headdress, and I don't know. I think it's just like the sheer size of it is really like a feat in and of itself. So that's one of my favorites. Other than that, oh man, I don't know. I can't think of any other. This is like really hard. This put me on the
Yeah,
spot.
just like a random question like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just I just thought of that question myself, and I got myself thinking. I was like, God damn, I don't think I can answer that right now. But if I had to choose one, like right off the bat, it would probably be from Mad Max, since we were just talking about that Fury
Yeah.
Road, in Morton
Yeah.
Joe's costume.
Yeah, that
Uh,
whole movie. I actually saw the costumes from that movie in person because
oh, really?
there's a fashion school out in LA called FIDM, and they have a small museum that showcase. It has like a rotating showcase of costumes. And when I went, it was 2017, so I think that movie came out in like 2015. I don't know. I have a
That
bad
sounds
memory.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they had the costumes there, and like even something as simple as what's her name, Furiosa's costume, like
Yeah.
just the texture and the aging, because like I'm like a sucker for that kind of stuff, like
Mhm.
the something that feels like it's lived in, and they're, they actually, that's what separates good period costuming from bad period costuming. Like you can watch a show that's set in, let's say, like medieval times, and like sometimes you look at it and you have this kind of uncanny valley effect where it's like, okay, the costumes, the style is correct, but why does it look so like clean and perfect and whatever? And then there are um some movies or shows where it feels just like those people actually wear that clothes every day. And
Mhm.
so that's what I appreciate about Mad Max. They did a really good job with the aging and dying department, as they call it.
Yeah. Well, what I also really appreciate about a lot of the costuming is it was very thematic per character.
Mm,
Like for example, we'll go back to Immortan Joe, and he has that like the acrylic husk that
yeah.
just shows like his abs and his chest, but he doesn't have any of that, so it kind of shows the ego this character has. Like he's this big badass, meanwhile he's just really just a frail dying man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like that. But no, I agree with you on a lot of what you just said, because like you look at a movie like it's mentioned multiple times, so I'm going to go with Braveheart.
Yeah.
Everybody in that movie who wears a costume, it looks like you said, aged. It looks like it's
Yeah.
lived in. These people were dirty back then.
Hmm.
But then you look at other movies like Charlie Hunnam was just in like a medieval movie that like bombed at the box office, King Arthur, I think, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that one went over my head.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't even see it, but I know it's out there somewhere. But like when I was looking at the costuming, like these guys had like polished armor and like nothing was wrong in the middle of a battlefield. I'm just like, there's something wrong going on.
Yeah. All the seams are just like perfect and immaculate, and
Yeah.
you can just like see the polyester, and you're like, they didn't have polyester back then. Everything was cotton. Yeah.
So yeah, now it's an interesting thing, but I mean the fact that you're able to do it and the fact that you do it for your your videos and your visuals, it just gives that like little personal touch to it as well. So um, anyway, moving on. Let's talk just a tad bit about your album here, Lesser Gods. Then let's talk about the title. Let's start there. Lesser Gods. What does that mean to you?
Well, I actually just took that out of the lyrics from one of my songs, Easy Target. It says, lesser gods betray so easily. And it was like when I don't even know where the lyrics came from, but I was like, damn, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it got me thinking about like the overall themes in all of the songs, and it's like how we make, like, humans are just like so flawed, and yet we make like demigods out of just your average person, and
Yep.
how like toxic of a habit that is, that us little mortals do. So yeah, I just like started seeing like these like humans as just like, we're just lesser gods, like that's just what we are, and we
Mhm.
just choose our favorite ones to put up on a pedestal.
Yeah, and is this in reference to like social media celebrities, influencers, politicians, or just kind of everybody in between?
It could be anyone, because like we do it with musicians, we do it with politicians, actors, like, and it can be extremely toxic, especially in like the climate that we've had, where, since the Me Too movement, where something comes out about a certain person, and people are quick to defend before they even, it's like they don't know that person at all,
Hmm.
yet they act like they can do no wrong. So I just see that in pop culture, or even in like friend circles, like social circles, that can happen. We just we choose our favorites and we put them up on a pedestal.
Yeah, the way I've always looked at it is like whenever an accusation is made, you take that seriously, you know.
Yeah.
But and I always say that, you know, wait until it's proven in the court of law, in a sense, if it gets to that point. Because I also look at like you know, what happened to Johnny Depp, you know, and
Yeah.
Amber Heard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think they're both pretty awful human beings,
Yeah.
right? And they were definitely in a emotional abusive relationship, to say the very least, verbally and emotionally. But as far as like the physical aspects of it, it's just like that was just a relationship that just be like, all right, we're not working out, we need to leave. But you know, because Johnny Depp got those accusations put against him, he lost so many Hollywood contracts, you know. And it's like, not saying that he needs to be a millionaire or anything like that, but I like him as an actor, and you know, he got a lot of his potential squashed during those years just because that one thing.
Yeah.
So, and again, I don't defend him. I just say he's a shitty person. Just move on. But when it comes to other people, like you said, they deserve their downfall.
I mean, yeah, and it absolutely depends on like the offense, because we're all flawed humans, and I think that like I mean, you can just like go back to medieval times once again. Like you would publicly humiliate people, throw fruit at them, like just like people just can't wait to find the flaw. It's funny because people either want to raise these people up so high, but they love to watch them fall as well. So I don't know. It's just like we're fucked up. Like people are really fucked up, to put it lightly.
Well, yeah. And a lot of people are also just like quick to like defame someone's just out of the blue. Like there's this one dark wave act that I know of, and I'm not going to mention names, but they made a joke, right? And it was a race joke, and it wasn't anything terrible. It wasn't anything terrible. Like race humor is not my sort of thing, but if a comedian uses it on stage, I'm not going to react. So that's what I usually say. Because otherwise Dave Chappelle wouldn't have a career.
Yeah.
So, but what happened is they made a small joke and somebody tried to blow them up. And these people aren't the type who are anywhere near that sort of, you know, devotion. And they tried to take them down. And, you know, this time it didn't work. And the reason why was because everybody knew who these people were and they weren't defending them. They were just like, dude, they admitted they did wrong and they took it down and now they're just moving on. So chill, you know. But again, it comes down to also like, you know, again, not mentioning names, but bigger bands in the recent history have been accused of horrible things. And so many people have just come out and be like, no, that can't be possible. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, no, it most likely is, because a lot of rock bands, like especially from like, you know, the 90s and 80s and earlier, have that perverted side to them, and nobody just wants to see it, you know? So. Yeah,
but what's the biggest bummer about it is how many people it takes to enable it. Like they're behind every rock band, there's a team of people that are enabling this behavior. It's not just like, it's never just the perpetrator's fault. It's like, there's the person that brought that person to them and then enabled it and says nothing about it and gets paid to enable it. Like, you know, that's the end of the day. So, so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just like, we need to just do better. Like it just, not everything can be proven in the court of law too. That's the thing where, you know, if enough people have said the same story without knowing each other, then it starts to get a little fishy.
Yeah, and I'm usually also against the whole idea that like a victim has to come out immediately, and the reason being is because it's a traumatizing event, you know.
They can also get sued. Like
exactly.
You know, you can get sued for slander, for like whatever, and if you don't have physical proof, which that is really hard to physically prove, especially years later after you've had to process that and then realize like what happened, there's no way to prove it. So you just have to be quiet and just deal with it. And then that's why, like, when enough women start, it's usually women, start coming forward about it, and they all have the same story. No, they were not conspiring with each other to like take this person down and say the same thing. It is because it happened. So I don't know. It's just, I can't personally separate art from the artist. The art is the artist. So.
Oh, absolutely. I've always agreed with that sort of statement. The art is the artist. Now, here's a question for you, and this might be this will be name dropping too. A band like Noctmar, right?
No,
You ever
I
listen to
don't.
them? Okay, never mind. We'll skip that. But anyway, they use a lot of like fascist imagery and stuff like that in
Oh
their
shit.
works and stuff like that. Now they've been doing that since their inception, I think in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Hmm.
They've released some pretty good music as of late. I'm not into them, but what is your opinion on that? Should that be exploited? Because I know a lot of German bands do that. Well,
Uh,
I'd say German, Eastern European.
yeah. I mean, even Susie Sue has done it in the past. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there was, I guess, like a time and a place. I can't really say because even myself growing up as a millennial, like in the early 2000s, anytime I try to revisit movies or TV shows from then, I'm just like, we grew up hearing like homophobic slurs
Yeah.
daily in TV. And like it's a wonder that a lot of us are not still homophobic or racist or like whatever. It was just so casual. And
Mhm.
like in media, in the things that we consumed. And so like I feel like that kind of imagery had a time and a place like back in say like the 70s or something when punk was prevalent, when post-punk was happening, it was to cause like elicit a reaction, right? So
Mhm.
like I have to say it over and over. I do not condone it. I personally would never do it, but
Yeah.
Susie Sue wearing a Nazi or a swastika armband was to get a reaction out of people and piss them off and cause a stir. I don't think it really got anywhere. Like I don't think it made a statement personally, but the one that I have a hard time like kind of rationalizing is I know that Roger Waters does this whole like thing on stage where he dresses up as like a fascist dictator and is like with a gun and like everything like armbands and shit, and he's making a commentary about like don't do this, this is really bad. But I also am just like, do you really still have to do the whole thing? I don't know, like maybe that was cool when you created it, but now it just it doesn't read the same way. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe just because it's been overdone.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's maybe a better way to do it that doesn't continue because some people are just stupid, like sorry to say, but they're not going to understand that it's satire or that it is like a commentary. They're going to think that you're just dressed up as Hitler. um, okay, a good example is the great dictator Charlie Chaplin.
Yes.
There are people now that think that he was a Nazi sympathizer, and like they like just watch the movie. Don't you realize that it's
Exactly.
commentary against like Hitler was obsessed with Charlie Chaplin, which is why he had the mustache. And
Mhm.
so he's basically telling his biggest fan, "Fuck you. I hate
Absolutely.
you." And so that is badass. Like that, I think that's when that works out well. When your audience is the person that you're making fun of, then
Mhm.
it works. But like with a lot of German bands that still, wear like the caps and like I don't know, it's like do we really need to do that anymore?
I think you hit it on the nail when you said there was a time and place for that type of stuff,
Yeah.
but like it has been overdone. Like every single movie from like the 2000s onwards, there was like three major enemies: Nazis, Russians, and the Middle East. Those
Yeah.
were your typical bad guys in the
Yep.
American films. So, and it even goes into video games. Like, I'm a huge gamer, so I look back to a video game like a Killzone 2 and 3, and the enemy in that game was sci-fi space Nazis. Basically, that's the best way
Hmm.
I can describe it. But again, it was overdone. So, yeah, you kind of said that right. I have no complaints there.
Yeah.
So, I had something else that I wanted to add to that conversation, but I forgot what it was, and now I'm upset.
It'll come back to you when I say something completely irrelevant.
Exactly, it probably will. Okay, let's move back on over to lesser gods. I know we ask one question, then we do a 10-minute divergence to something else, but that's kind of what I wanted with this. So,
It works for
um,
me.
let's go back to costuming. Lesser gods, the blue costume. What's it about?
The
What were you
blue,
trying to represent?
the blue one. Oh, so okay,
Guy on the cover art, yeah.
yeah. I was like, which one? That one was inspired by one of my favorite artists is this man named John William Waterhouse. And he did these very like I don't know if I think his artwork is considered pre-Raphaelite. And he portrayed a lot of goddesses, but like in a very human type of way. Like I don't know. So there's this painting of the goddess Circe, and she's holding a bowl of water, and she's pouring it into a river, and she's wearing a blue robe, like a blue, basically similar to what I'm wearing, and she's pouring this like bowl of water into the river, and it was just like such a striking image to me that I was just like, I hit up one of my friends, Yvette Esporo. She's the one that took the cover art. And I was like, what if we make like an avant-garde kind of version of this? So she had the idea to put cellophane down instead of water, because it was like in the middle of summer last year, and there was like a drought, and there was no fucking water to be found around here at all. So we're like, whatever, let's do it like a very like Georges Méliès type of photo shoot. So I don't know, that's the inspiration for that, and I like how it turned out. The back of the album was the same clouds and waves that I used in my Tempest video that I painted, to kind of just like, carry that theme over as well. So yeah, that's where that came from.
Yeah, and just to let you know, when I first saw that, I immediately thought of like Greek imagery, like Greek goddesses and whatnot. So that's what I got out of it, but you went in a totally different direction.
Yeah, well, those paintings portray these goddesses in like a very Greek and Roman type of way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too far off.
That's, and I put the little pillar in there call back.
Like so anyway, I remember my point that I was going to say before, because you're talking about there was a time and place for everything.
Uh-huh.
I was recently talking about, you ever see Blazing Saddles?
Yes.
Okay, I was recently discussing that movie with a friend, right? And the person that I was talking with decided to say, "Oh, hey, I can't watch that movie because it's too racist." And I was just like, "That is the exact point."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the who directed that one? Was that
It's why am I forgetting his name? He did Young
was that Mel Brooks?
Yeah, it's a Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, Mel Brooks. He and everybody in that cast was just like, okay, everybody's racist right now. What can we do to stop that? And they were just like, we're going to show them how stupid they are. So they put in all those black versus white jokes, and that's what was so great about it, because at the time people were just like, okay, we can laugh about each other. We can joke about each other. We're not different. And when I heard somebody say, oh, hey, I can't watch that because it's racist, I'm just like, why don't you take yourself down a little history lesson,
Yeah. So. Yeah, but that was also made in like the late 70s. So
I think so. If that, I thought it was the 80s or something like that. But
yeah, I think it's the late 70s. It's an old movie.
Yeah.
I just watched that.
I could be wrong, yeah.
Too. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with like even the Married with Children, people. Yeah. I don't know. I personally tried to rewatch that show recently too, and I was like, okay, I get that it's satire, but damn, it gets fucking tiring to keep hearing the same kind of like misogynistic jokes all the time. But at the time, it was a commentary on just like the happy traditional American family, and like at a certain point, you're just like, okay, a joke, I get it. You made that point back then, but it doesn't really like hold up anymore.
Exactly, and so. But anyway, let's go back to the album here. Let's take a look at this track list. I'm just gonna pick one song, and you're gonna tell me about it, okay?
Okay.
Let's go with how about we go with House of the Devil? And does that take its name from the movie or no?
So there are actually two movies called that. So there's House of the Devil was one of the first movies ever made. And then there's The House of the Devil, which is a Ty West horror movie that I'm sure you've seen. I like that.
Not yet, actually.
Oh, nice. Well, you should. It's really good. Ty West is an incredible director. But yeah, so I actually picked it based off of like the first movie ever made. because like I get my artist name from a silent movie actress, so I'm just like really enamored with like the very like tactile feeling of like old cinema, and just like the way that they built their sets and like their costumes and the makeup, and it just like looked really cool. So I got that idea because like that song is basically about like somebody making you the villain when it's something having to do with their own insecurity. Like I had a friend who just like flipped out on me once because like she was just dealing through some stuff, and you know, everything was my fault. So that stemmed from that, and I figured like it'd be cool to build this like kind of imagery around it where it's like I'm the devil and I'm commanding these demons, and so that's where that came from.
Gotcha. And if I'm not mistaken, you made a music video out of that one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said, at least when I was reading, I think the press release, it said it had a lot of like giallo influences, like from the
Yeah.
old Italian horror cinema. And I kind of noticed that even with just like the color contrast and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we watched Ian and I have this app called Shudder. I don't know if you have it.
I'm subscribed, yeah.
Yeah, so anytime we don't know what to watch, we just throw on Shudder Trash, as we call it, and we just like throw on whatever is currently playing on one of their channels. And we came across this movie on there called Death by Temptation. And it's like not a great movie, but the way that it's shot was so creative. Like I was doing something else or whatever, and I just like watch what was going on screen. I'm like, okay, now I am committed to this movie. So, and every time we would like throw on Shutter TV or whatever, it would replay, and I'm just like, something's telling me that I need to make something that looks like this. So there was just like a lot of like, you know, crucifixes and red light and then blue light and a lot of like glowing and smoke and whatever. So that is where that came from. It was like my interpretation of the imagery from Death by Temptation. And also like I really like the way that Suspiria looks. Yes. So I got inspired by that, and I got inspired by the lighting in Inglourious Bastards.
The Tarantino film?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I'm a huge Tarantino film. How did that the lighting in that movie affect the music video?
So you know that part, I guess like we're way past spoilers. That movie's been out forever.
Yeah.
But you know that part where like Shoshana's getting ready for like the big takedown, and she's putting on like her red dress and her makeup, and she's upstairs in the very, you know, top room of the cinema, and she's like putting on her lipstick, and there's this lighting that's just over her eyes, and everything's red in the background, and then there's just like this lighting over her eyes, and she just looks like super femme fatale, and like she's about to fuck up everyone's life, and she does. So like that, I've always loved that old Hollywood like glamour lighting. It's just so dramatic, mysterious. So I had my friend Vicente Cordero shoot that video, and he knows how to light shit. So I was like, please give me that lighting.
Gotcha.
There are a few shots in that video that have that kind of lighting.
Gotcha. Now, going back to Shudder, did you happen to catch the movie called Glory Hole?
Oh my God, no, I have not watched it. Ian did, but I have not.
You have to watch it. It sounds like such a dirty movie, and it is in premise, but it turns into something so much more later as you continue down. You think it's about one thing, and then it's just like twists it on your head.
I got a little synopsis on that one.
So yeah, I laughed my ass off the whole entire way. So it was really well done. The acting from the main dude is but who did they get to play the voice? It was J.K. Simmons or something like that.
Oh my God, yes, I love him. Yeah.
He played the news guy in the Spider-Man films.
Yeah, and he was also the very abusive teacher in Whiplash.
No, I never watched that one. I always wanted to try it, but
highly recommend.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can deal with an hour and a half of jazz.
You know, jazz is secondary though, because it's like, have you ever seen Black Swan?
Yes, I love that movie.
Me too. There's something, I don't know what this says about my personality, but there's something that I love about movies that feature people that are willing to like quite literally die for their art. And so like Whiplash is about a kid who just wants to be the best jazz drummer ever.
Yeah.
So he just like destroys his body and his mind for that position, and it's a very psychologically kind of fucked up movie. And there's jazz in it, but that's just like if a movie is well acted and well written and well shot, I don't care what it's about. Like,
Yeah.
I'll watch a movie about, like, a good example, completely different tone than Whiplash, but I've been watching Ted Lasso lately,
Okay.
the series, and it's about like soccer players. I don't give a fuck about soccer,
Yeah.
but the show's really entertaining. So, yeah.
That kind of reminds me of like Darren Aronofsky
Mhm.
with you ever see Wrestler?
I haven't seen that one.
You should check it out. I forget the lead actor's name. I know who he is, but it's not coming out the tip of my tongue. But again, when I was a kid, I loved wrestling. I loved WWE and all that, And then when I got into my teenage years, I was just like, nah, this stuff is all fake. And now I'm an adult, and I'm just like, I respect their athleticism, but that's about it.
Mhm.
Give me an hour of people jumping off the top ropes, I'll be happy. But if they're just punching each other, I'm just gonna laugh.
Yeah.
But that's what that movie is about. It's about a guy who's past his prime. He was a wrestler, and it's just this huge drama about him trying to get his relationship with his daughter back up because he was,
Mm.
basically a piece of shit dad. But I don't care about the wrestling parts. I care about the actual, dramatic relationship.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's in that
So in Whiplash, it's like this much jazz and this much drama.
vein. Cool. I'll have to check that out one day. And since
Yeah.
we're on the topic of movies, and since we keep going back to movies, give me your favorite movie of all time. And I'm talking about from a visual standpoint, a musical standpoint, everything. Acting, you need that triple threat.
Oh my god, that's so hard.
If not, give me something out of like your top five.
Inglourious Bastards. That's one of my favorite
Really?
movies ever. Yeah,
Okay.
honestly, I love Tarantino movies. Like, I know that some
Yeah.
people have like a weird opinion about him, but Kill
Well,
Bill,
maybe,
Tarantino, or Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, fucking, why am I blanking? Death
Pulp
Proof. Like,
Fiction.
yeah, Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction. Like, they're all perfect movies. Like, they're so like dialogue driven, but it's never boring. Like,
Yeah.
all these characters are really weird but really well fleshed out. It feels like it could be real life, but it's like altered reality, I guess. He's always this like attention to detail. I don't know. Like, so I love Tarantino movies. Pretty much any of them. I said Labyrinth was one of my favorites. I really love Black Swan, and the movie that I've seen the most ever in theaters was Pan's Labyrinth. I don't
Really? How
know
many
what
times
it
did you
was
go see
about.
that?
I went like 5 times
No
to the
shit.
theater.
So,
Yeah, when that came out, I was just like, it's so sad. I need to see it
yeah,
again.
I was shocked how good that movie was when I first saw it because I think that was either my first or that was my second Del Toro film, if I'm not mistaken. Because my first one when I was a kid was Hellboy because I just saw this demon beating up people and
Yeah,
Nazis and
Hellboy came before.
Rasputin.
Huh.
I thought, well, not I don't know if it came before or after, but it was my first Del Toro
Oh,
film
gotcha.
personally.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh, I know this guy. Let me go watch this movie. So it looks pretty good. And then I put it on, and I was just like, God damn, my heart just got ripped out.
Yeah, I know. So it's like the music's really good, the acting's
Yeah.
really good. I love the color grading. It just like feels there's so much texture in that movie. I say that word a lot, but I'm like there's just this, like it just looks lived in, but still like really beautiful. Um, there's I don't know, it's just really sad. Like, it's not a happy ending. Like,
Oh, I mean, it is and it isn't at the
somewhat,
same time,
yeah, could be
So
worse.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and it's funny that you mentioned the color grading because I picked up on that a while back about Del Toro's directing and cinematography. Is he does have a very distinct color setting for all his films. Like even in his what was his most recent film? He was nominated for a few
Shape,
things.
Shape of Water. Oh wait, no,
No.
oh my god, hold on. Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, Nightmare Alley. We
Yeah.
watched that one, and immediately as soon as it began, I was like, "Yeah, this is Del Toro's work. You can see
Yeah.
it." And
I
also,
liked
Ron
it.
Perlman was in it. So,
Yeah.
but what's on the horizon for BARA HARI here?
I'm trying
You
to
have
get
anything else coming up?
some live shows booked.
Okay.
Yeah, so far only have one, but it's not till December. So I'm trying to fill in earlier months. And I really want to do collaborations, because like I work primarily by myself. Like I do have Ian, my partner, help me a lot, but like most of it is just a very solitary experience. And it gets kind of like, I feel like I'm living inside my own bubble for like too long. Like I need outside influence, I guess. It would be nice to work with other people. So I have like a couple collaborations in the works. And mostly I just want to do stuff like outside of the genre completely, because I feel like that would be a fun challenge, to try to write in a different way. So that I have probably a few remixes coming out later this year. Other than that, I'm already writing a few songs for whatever comes after this. Seeing how that shakes out.
All right, that's cool. Oh, you know what? I just remembered a question that I did want to ask you. You're more into like the dark pop aspect of music. You have some darker influences here and there, but
Yeah.
being that Remission, right? It's more of a Wes does a little bit of everything, but I would say that he's more into like the the electro industrial stuff. He has a bit of Witch House and stuff like that. Did you find it hard finding a place in the scene, being that you're more into dark pop and you're surrounded by people who are outside that genre?
I find it extremely difficult, to be completely honest. Like, I have found that it's like I exist right now in this like weird, I'm too dark for pop, but too pop for the dark, if that makes sense. And also, like, I always have to remind myself that I have to kind of, because honestly, if it was up to me, like my next album would just be something completely different. Like, I don't know. I've been really digging like the late 60s, like the Doors and like Jefferson Airplane, and I'm just like, I want to do that. But then, it's a little bit too far off in a different direction. So trying to figure out how to kind of keep things cohesive. So it's just like it's not that I don't like that kind of electro industrial music. I just feel like I don't fit in because I don't stick to that style.
Yeah.
Even though that's where a lot of my influence comes from. Like I grew up listening to mostly Susie and the Banshees, the Sisters of Mercy. Then I got really into like Switchblade Symphony, and like Nine Inch Nails is one of my all-time favorite bands. But I also love like Amy Winehouse and Florence and the Machine and Garbage and all of these bands that have nothing to do with one another. So I feel like I'm just like a melting pot for all of the things that I like. And so yeah, it has been difficult to kind of like find my place because I don't even know what my genre is. But so that's why I'm always like kind of I'm really grateful that people still like what I do. But yeah, so that's been my experience.
You could always like cause a stir and start labeling yourself industrial pop, because everybody hates that term now.
I know, but a lot of people are leaning into it. But I don't know. I don't even really. I feel like my first EP had a lot of industrial elements in it. But I don't think I have like hardly any anymore. Like that's definitely my background. Like I did grow up listening to a lot of industrial music. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't think industrial pop really fits. But
no. And the other thing that's funny about the industrial scene is that like a lot of times like a lot of dudes in the industrial scene, you'll mention synth pop and they'll just go crazy for it. But as soon as you just say pop music, they're like, oh, no, can't do it. I hate it,
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm sitting over here and I remember when Scars to Your Beautiful released by Alessia Cara, I fell in love with that fucking song. I still listen to it, I think it's beautiful. And that's a pop song. So, and I run a Brutal Resonance website, which is about industrial music. So it's like, don't be that type of person. Just enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah, so. And it's just like that's why I have a difficult like relationship with genre. Of course, like super typical of any musician to say, but because people preemptively judge based on like okay, like a lot of people in the scene like Kanga, her music's pop.
Yeah, absolutely.
She knows it, but like it's very pop, and yet people love it because it's like they like her, they like the music she makes. So what the fuck does it matter that it's pop?
I also think that it has to do with that she was on like Artifact Records, and they're mainly known, were mainly known for more of their industrial release output, and then Kanga came along, and just because she had that like rougher edge, they were just like, oh yeah, she can join the fold, and no problem there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, so it's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
But all right, I think this has been about 45 minutes of nonstop chat going all over the place, and this is exactly what I wanted.
Nice.
So if you have anything else to say, please say it. Where can we buy your music? Yeah. Where's that located at?
You can go to remissionentertainment.com. And I have some t-shirts that I designed, as well as my vinyl that comes with a lyric book that I designed. So yeah, it's available in sky blue and in black.
Yeah, I saw that. I still have to pick up a copy myself. But yeah, if that's all, I'm going to leave the links in the comments for her social medias, where to buy her vinyl and all that stuff. Support independent artists, as I always like to say. But other than that, I think we're done.
Awesome.
All right, Sam, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. I had fun.